Hello, fellow traveler of the Information Highway, and welcome to Gamer Mouse, where I apparently cover games that are disowned even by their publishers. We're going to finish up Richard White's lineup of games in the next couple of videos, his first game being titled Rock Solid. I feel bad I've been kind of ragging on Richard White, especially on Lost Souls. Oceanbound was at least amusing, and Lost Souls had the potential for an interesting idea, but just never got there. Imagine a strategy game where you create different chess pieces from your resources. That could have been something, but sadly we got something way simpler. It all started here, though, so how is this game? It's actually kinda good. Certainly not perfect, but there is something here. You probably have to be a specific kind of person to enjoy it, though we'll get to that later. The plot is just as bare bones as ever, and the game is hilariously unpolished. I'm just sad the company in the game is Diamond Excavation Corporation and not Diamond Mining Corporation, as I'm missing out on a Devil May Cry joke that way. The game has very, very few sounds, sometimes resorting to default alert sounds. The graphics don't even flow properly, and the game uses a password system for crying out loud, in 1998. No save file, you gotta write down those passwords like you're playing an NES game. At least the passwords are very short, 5 numbers long, so I'll give him that. Oh, also, if the game's running for too long, the sound glitches out, and then the game crashes when you quit. Though that last bit might be my emulator. Take that bit of glitchiness with a grain of salt. One thing I know is the developer's fault is the fact you're supposed to register the game, but you can just play through the whole thing anyways. All I can say is thank Mac Jesus for that, because I doubt I'd find any registration file nowadays. All of that sounds like scathing criticism, and, well, yes, it kind of is. At the same time, the concept is interesting enough I actually wanted to keep playing it. I kinda think of this as an ancient, janky Infinifactory. Yesteryear's Mac games said it's like Lemmings meets Factory, the Industrial Devolution. Yet another terribly obscure game for a niche audience I need to get to at some point. Anyhow, this game is all about building contraptions to mine all the diamonds in a level and do it within budget. So it's closer to a puzzle game. Technically the game runs in real time, but things don't really start unless you start them, so you can set everything up before you turn your machinery on bit by bit. It is actually rather satisfying to turn everything on and watch it all go according to plan. The game is good about explaining what works and what doesn't, so it will. Usually. The game does fall into some patterns, so it can still be a bit of a slog to play through all at once. There is enough curveballs in there that it never became completely mind-numbing, though. At least for me. This game still manages to be rather annoying in a couple of ways, though. For one, there's no real visible grid, so if you're trying to line up where to build or dig something after a long drop, which will be often, you'll have to put your finger on the screen or something. There's also a really wonky difficulty curve. The game does generally get harder as it goes on, but it also likes to spike. Hard. The worst example is... You still have the same level completion noise from Oceanbound. Don't do that! Anyways, possibly the worst example is level 4. Yes, level 4 in a 60-level game. You have to build a very efficient bridge to get the diamonds across within budget. It's basically the whole challenge of the level. I see what they're trying to do here. They're attempting to teach you how to use scaffolding effectively. But if you can't figure it out, you'll feel dumb, frustrated, and probably be discouraged from playing the rest of the game. I finished this with basically nothing to spare, and I'm not sure I could squeeze any more out of it. There's a few other difficulty spikes, but they're a little better, if just because they don't spike as much compared to surrounding levels by that point. Overall, though, I'd actually call this a good game. It's really janky and completely unpolished, but it has a solid gameplay core. Not rock solid, but hey, what can you do? This game at least took something relatively simple and made a fair bit of depth out of it, much more than Oceanbound or Lost Souls did. Sure, there's better games in this sort of genre now, like the Zachtronics line of games and various other puzzle titles. At least I can say that, at the time, somebody like me probably would have been quite engrossed in a game like this. As it is, it's a curiosity today, sure, but it's not nearly as immediately outmoded as the other 2 titles we've covered so far. Now to figure out if Richard White managed one last hurrah with Galactic Core. This is Tanara Kuranov signing off. Until next time.